The question, the orbital station hung like a silver jewel against the backdrop of Earth's blue marble surface. Zix-7 pressed his 6 delicate fingers against the observation window, his compound eyes reflecting the swirling white clouds below. After 3 cycles of travel across the galaxy, he had finally arrived at the most mysterious posting in the entire galactic community, the Earth Research Station. The young Vrixian scientist adjusted his breathing apparatus and smoothed down the iridescent scales along his neck. This assignment represented everything he had worked for during his education at the Central Academy. Earth was a world unlike any other in the known galaxy, and its inhabitants, the humans, were equally unique. Yet despite humanity's acceptance into the galactic community 15 standard years ago, they remained an enigma wrapped in layers of protocols and restrictions. Zix-7's mentor, Elder Korth-9, materialized beside him in the observation deck. The older Vrixian scales had dulled to a deep purple with age, and his movements carried the weight of decades spent among the stars. He did not look at the planet below, but instead watched his young pupil with eyes that had seen too much. Beautiful, is it not? Korth-9's voice resonated through the translation device embedded in his throat. A world of such contradiction. Violent yet peaceful, primitive yet advanced. The humans call it home. It is remarkable, Elder, Zix-7 replied, unable to hide his enthusiasm. The biodiversity alone exceeds anything in our databases. And the humans themselves, their psychological profiles suggest a species capable of both extraordinary compassion and devastating destruction. I am eager to begin my research. Korth-9's scales rippled with what might have been amusement or concern. It was difficult to tell with the elder generation. Your eagerness is noted, young one. But remember the protocols. They exist for critical reasons. Of course, Elder. I have memorized all 247 interaction guidelines. Zix-7 recited them in his mind. No direct physical contact with humans. Maintain a minimum distance of 2 meters at all times. Never consume food or beverages in human presence. Avoid sustained eye contact beyond 3 seconds. The list went on, each rule seemingly more arbitrary than the last. Memorization is not understanding, Korth-9 said quietly. Come, I will show you to your quarters. You begin orientation tomorrow. As they walked through the pristine corridors of the station, Zix-7 noticed something peculiar. Every doorway, every corridor, every common area was designed with separate pathways. One side was marked with the symbol of the galactic community, a spiral of stars. The other bore Earth's simple blue and green circle. Everywhere he looked, the architecture itself enforced separation between humans and aliens. His quarters were spacious, equipped with all the amenities a Vrixian might need. Climate control matched his homeworld's humidity, the sleeping alcove adjusted to his body shape, and the food synthesizer was programmed with his species' nutritional requirements. Yet as comfortable as it was, Zix-7 found himself drawn back to the window, gazing down at the world below. Sleep did not come easily that night. His mind churned with questions that his academic training had never satisfactorily answered. Why were humans so carefully segregated? What made them different from every other species in the community? The Draconians breathed methane. The Aquarians required constant moisture. The crystalline beings communicated through light pulses. Yet all of them interacted freely with one another. Only humans were kept at arm's length, literally and figuratively. The next morning, Zix-7 reported to the orientation chamber. A holographic display materialized before him, showing the friendly face of a human female. She had the warm brown skin common among Earth's diverse population, dark curly hair and eyes that seemed to sparkle with intelligence. The image was so lifelike that Zix-7 instinctively stepped back, remembering the 2-meter rule. Hello, I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, head of the Human Liaison Department, the hologram said with a broad smile. Welcome to the Earth Research Station. I'll be your primary contact during your stay here. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out through the communication system. The presentation continued, covering station layouts, research protocols, emergency procedures, and cultural sensitivity training. Throughout it all, Dr. Chen maintained that warm, welcoming demeanor that Zix-7 had read about in his studies of human behavior. They were a social species, he knew, one that placed high value on personal connection and community bonds. How strange it must be for them, he thought, to be surrounded by alien species who could never truly get close. After the orientation, Zix-7 made his way to his assigned laboratory. The space was divided by a transparent barrier, with human researchers working on one side and alien scientists on the other. Communication happened through intercom systems and holographic displays. Data was shared through isolated computer networks. Even the air circulation was completely separate. A human technician, a young man with red hair and freckles, waved cheerfully from the other side of the barrier. 6-7 hesitantly raised one hand in return, mimicking the gesture he had seen in countless training videos. The human grinned wider and returned to his work. Throughout that first day, 6-7 observed dozens of similar interactions. Humans and aliens working side by side, yet never truly together, always separated by barriers, by distance, by rules that no one seemed willing to explain. The frustration built inside him like pressure in a sealed container. By evening, he could contain his curiosity no longer. He found Elder Korth 9 in the station's meditation garden, a space designed to accommodate multiple species' needs for contemplation. The Elder sat in the Vrixian section, his scales turned toward the setting sun projected on the wall screens. Elder Korth 9, 6-7 began, settling beside his mentor. I must ask you something. I suspected you would not last even one full day before the questions began, the Elder said with that rippling scale motion again. Proceed. Why are we forbidden from touching humans? I have reviewed all the public documentation, studied every interaction protocol, and nowhere can I find a satisfactory explanation. We trade with them, work alongside them, even live on this station with them. Yet we cannot shake their hands, cannot offer comfort when they are distressed, cannot share a meal at the same table. Why? The Elder's scales darkened to a deep violet, almost black. It was a color 6-7 had never seen on any Vrixian before. Fear. The Elder was afraid. That is not a question to be asked lightly, young one. But I am asking it. Not lightly, but with genuine need to understand. How can I conduct meaningful research? How can I claim to study humanity if I do not know the answer to this fundamental question? Korth 9 was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, and he checked the meditation garden's privacy settings 3 times before continuing. What I tell you now is not to be repeated to anyone. Do you understand? Not to your colleagues, not to your family, not even to other elders unless they broach the subject first. 6-7's hearts began to beat faster, a double rhythm that echoed in his chest. I understand. The prohibition against touching humans is not merely a cultural sensitivity protocol, Korth 9 began. It is a survival measure. When humans were first discovered, we made the same assumptions we make about all new species. We believed them to be simply another variant of carbon-based life, interesting but ultimately similar to countless others we had encountered. We were wrong, catastrophically wrong. What happened? The first contact team consisted of 12 members representing 7 different species. They landed on Earth with all the proper diplomatic procedures, all the carefully rehearsed greetings. The humans were welcoming, curious, eager to learn about the wider galaxy. One of the human representatives, overcome with joy, embraced our team leader. A Vrixian like us. By the time they separated, our team leader was convulsing. She died within 2 minutes. Before we could retreat, 3 more team members had been touched by well-meaning humans. None of them survived. 6-7 felt his scales go pale. But the humans. Of course they did not mean to harm anyone. That is what made it so terrible. The humans were devastated. They thought they had destroyed any chance of joining the galactic community. Earth went into a state of global mourning. And we, in our pain and confusion, almost declared them a hostile species and quarantined their world permanently. What stopped us? Science. Despite our grief, we are rational beings. We investigated, and what we discovered changed everything. The Elder stood and walked to the viewing screen, pulling up an image of a human hand. The 5-fingered appendage looked innocent enough, but Korth 9 highlighted something invisible to the naked eye. Humans are teeming with microbial life. Their bodies host trillions of bacteria, fungi, and viruses. Most of these are beneficial or neutral to humans themselves, but to almost every other known species in the galaxy, they are deadly pathogens. Human skin, their breath, even their presence in a room releases these organisms into the environment. Humans have evolved with these microbes, developed immune responses to them. We have not, but surely we have medical technology. We do. And it works, eventually. But the initial contact, the first touch, that is when the transmission occurs most effectively. By the time symptoms appear, by the time we can begin treatment, the damage is often too severe. 3 out of 4 species tested showed fatal reactions to human microbial exposure. The others showed severe illness that required extensive medical intervention. Zix7 processed this information, his scientific mind racing through the implications. And humans? Are they aware of this? They know that close physical contact with most aliens is restricted, yes. But they do not know the full truth. The Galactic Council decided that revealing humanity's essentially toxic nature to other species would cause unnecessary fear and prejudice. Better to frame it as a mutual cultural respect protocol. Better to let humans believe we are simply being cautious. Until both our species better understand each other. You mean we have been lying to them. We have been protecting them from a truth that might make them outcasts. Do you know what humans call themselves, Zix7? They have a phrase, the social species. Their entire civilization is built on touch, on connection, on physical presence. If they truly understood that their very nature makes them poisonous to most life in the galaxy, it would devastate them psychologically. Zix7 turned back to the window, looking down at Earth with new eyes. A beautiful world, a remarkable species, and a terrible secret that kept them forever apart from their galactic neighbors. There must be a solution, he said quietly. There must be a way to bridge this gap. Perhaps, Korth 9 said. But it has eluded the brightest minds in the community for 15 years. Do not expect to solve it in your first posting, young one. But as Zix7 stood there watching the blue planet turn below, he made a silent vow. He would find a way. He would discover the truth behind the forbidden contact. He would not accept that humanity was destined to remain forever at arm's length from the rest of the galaxy. He did not yet know that his quest for answers would uncover secrets far deeper than anyone had imagined. Secrets that some in the galactic community would kill to keep hidden. Secrets that would force him to make an impossible choice between his own survival and the future of human-alien relations. The question had been asked. Now there was no going back. The discovery 3 months into his assignment, Zix7 had become a familiar presence on the Earth Research Station. His colleagues commented on his dedication, often finding him in the laboratory long after the standard work cycle ended. What they did not know was that his research had taken a different direction than his official assignment suggested. While his public work focused on studying human cultural adaptation to galactic norms, his private investigations delved into something far more dangerous. The classified archives of First Contact. Every station on every world kept detailed records, but accessing them required permissions that a junior researcher like Zix7 simply did not have. Fortunately, the Vrixian had discovered something during his academy years that his professors had never intended to teach him. He was very good at getting into places he did not belong. The archive servers were located in a restricted section of the station, behind biometric locks and energy barriers. But Zix7 had spent weeks mapping the security systems, studying the patrol patterns of the automated drones, and most importantly, befriending a maintenance technician who complained constantly about having to upgrade the aging infrastructure. On a night when most of the station's inhabitants were attending a cultural exchange program, Zix7 made his move. The maintenance tunnel he had discovered ran parallel to the restricted section, separated only by a thin panel of easily removable composite material. His heart hammered as he worked, but his hands remained steady. This was too important to let fear control him. The archives materialized before him in holographic form, centuries of galactic history at his fingertips. But he was not interested in ancient wars or diplomatic treaties. He needed to find the records from 15 years ago. The touching event, as Elder Korth 9 had called it. The files were heavily encrypted, but whoever had designed the security system had not anticipated a Vrixian with a minor in quantum cryptography. It took an hour, but eventually the data streams resolved into readable form. What Zix7 saw made his scales turn pale. The official record of first contact was nothing like what had been taught in schools. Yes, there had been deaths. Yes, human microbes had proven deadly. But that was only the beginning of the story. What came after was far more disturbing. Zix7 discovered that in the weeks following the touching event, more than 30 scientists from various species had volunteered to study the phenomenon. They worked around the clock, determined to find a way to safely interact with humanity, and they had succeeded. Within 6 months, they had developed a comprehensive treatment protocol that could neutralize human microbes with minimal side effects. The solution had been found, but then something changed. 7 of the lead researchers died in what was officially reported as a laboratory accident. Their data was confiscated by the Galactic Council. The remaining scientists were reassigned to distant postings, and the treatment protocol was classified at the highest level, accessible only to the Council itself. There was more. Deep in the archives, Zik-7 found medical records that should not have existed. Tests performed on humans without their knowledge or consent. Tissue samples collected secretly. DNA analysis that went far beyond simple microbial studies. Someone had been studying humans in ways that violated every ethical guideline in the community. And then he found the report that changed everything. A document authored by someone identified only as Researcher X1 that detailed a discovery so significant that it had been immediately classified and all copies supposedly destroyed. Somehow one had survived in the archives, buried under layers of misdirection. The report was titled, Extraordinary Regenerative Properties of Human Tissue in Xenobiological Applications. Zik-7 read the document 3 times, barely believing what he was seeing. According to the research, human cells possessed unique properties that could revolutionize medicine across the galaxy. Exposure to human biological material under controlled conditions could trigger healing responses in other species. Diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia could potentially be cured. Aging processes could be slowed or even reversed. The implications were staggering, but the treatment required physical contact. Direct exposure to human tissue, human fluids, human cells, the very thing that was absolutely forbidden. Suddenly, the prohibition made terrible sense. This was not about protecting aliens from human microbes. It was about controlling access to the most valuable resource the galaxy had ever discovered. Humanity itself was the cure, and the Galactic Council had made sure that no one could benefit from it without their approval. Zik-7's hands trembled as he downloaded the data to an isolated storage device. This was more than just a secret. This was a conspiracy that reached to the highest levels of galactic government, and he was now in possession of evidence that could bring down the entire structure of power in the community. A sound in the corridor outside snapped him back to awareness. He quickly erased his access logs, restored the archive interface, and slipped back through the maintenance tunnel. By the time the security patrol passed, he was in his quarters, the stolen data hidden in a false compartment he had constructed weeks ago. Sleep was impossible that night. Zik-7 paced his small living space, trying to make sense of what he had learned. Who could he trust with this information? Elder Korth 9? Perhaps, but the old Vrixian might feel obligated to report it to the authorities. His fellow researchers? Too risky. The humans? Definitely not yet. If they knew the truth, the results would be unpredictable. As dawn broke over the station, Zik-7 realized he had only one option. He needed to verify the information independently. And there was only one way to do that. He needed to talk directly to a human, really talk to them beyond the sanitized communications allowed by protocol. Dr. Sarah Chen was his obvious choice. As head of the Human Liaison Department, she had more access to both human and alien records than most people on the station. More importantly, something about her manner suggested intelligence that went beyond simple diplomatic training. She seemed like someone who asked questions and did not always accept easy answers. The problem was approaching her without raising suspicions. Every interaction between humans and aliens was monitored, recorded, analyzed for compliance with protocols. He needed a way to communicate that would not be traced back to either of them. It took another week of planning, but Zik-7 finally found his opportunity. The station's recreation facilities included a garden space designed to simulate Earth's natural environments. Humans used it for relaxation and meditation, while aliens studied the remarkable biodiversity of Earth's plant life. The monitoring in the garden was less strict than other areas, designed to give both species a sense of privacy. Zik-7 waited until he saw Dr. Chen enter the garden alone during her evening break. He followed at a careful distance, making sure to maintain the required 2 meters of separation. She was sitting on a bench near a pond, watching the artificial fish swim beneath the water's surface. "Dr. Chen," Zik-7 said softly, staying beyond the boundary line that separated human and alien sections. "May I speak with you?" Off the record, she looked up, surprise evident on her face. In 3 months of working on the same station, they had exchanged greetings and professional pleasantries but never had a personal conversation. Her dark eyes studied him with an intensity that made him wonder if she already suspected something. "Off the record?" She smiled slightly. "I'm not sure that's possible here, researcher Zik7. Everything we do is monitored for everyone's safety." "I understand. But perhaps we could speak hypothetically, about questions that might be better not asked through official channels." Her smile faded. She stood, moving closer to the boundary line, though still careful not to cross it. "What kind of questions?" "Questions about why we are forbidden from crossing this line. About what really happened during first contact. About secrets that some people might prefer to remain hidden." Dr. Chen's expression changed from casual interest to sharp focus in an instant. "You need to be very careful about the questions you ask, researcher. Some doors once opened cannot be closed again. I know, but I also know that you have been asking similar questions. I have seen your access logs in the medical database. You have been researching the same incidents I have been investigating." It was a bluff. Zik7 had no way to access Dr. Chen's research history, but her reaction told him everything he needed to know. She went very still, and her eyes widened just slightly before she regained control. "We should not have this conversation here," she said quietly. "The garden monitoring may be less intrusive than other areas, but it is still active. If you want to talk, really talk, we need to be smarter about it." "How?" She thought for a moment, then smiled again, though this time it did not reach her eyes. "Do you know what a maintenance shift rotation is?" "Of course. The periods when automated systems undergo diagnostic checks and human technicians perform manual inspections. During those shifts, monitoring systems are temporarily suspended in the sections being serviced. It is the only time on this entire station when privacy actually exists. There is a rotation scheduled for the auxiliary laboratory section in 2 days. Level 7 Corridor C at 0300 hours station time. The diagnostic cycle takes exactly 1 hour. I will be there." Dr. Chen nodded and turned to leave, but paused. "Researcher Zik7, whatever you have found, whatever you think you know, be prepared for the possibility that the truth is worse than you imagine, and be ready for the fact that once we start down this path, there may be no way back." As she walked away, Zik7 realized that his vow to uncover the truth was no longer just about scientific curiosity. Something much larger was at stake. Dr. Chen knew it. The people who had classified the archives knew it. And soon, he would know it too. The countdown to the meeting began. 2 days to prepare. 2 days to decide if he was willing to risk everything for answers to questions that most of the galaxy did not even know existed. In his quarters that night, Zik7 reviewed the stolen data one more time. The regenerative properties of human tissue, the healing potential hidden in their cells, the cure that the galaxy needed but was forbidden to access. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a new question formed. If human contact could heal, what else could it do? What other secrets did the Galactic Council know about humanity that they had decided to conceal? And most importantly, did the humans themselves know what they truly were? He would find out. In 2 days, in an unmonitored corridor during a maintenance shift, the truth would begin to emerge. And Zik7 had the feeling that once it did, nothing would ever be the same again. The second part of his journey was about to begin. And unlike the first, this one would not be a solo voyage. Dr. Sarah Chen was asking the same questions he was. Together they might find answers. Or together, they might uncover something that powerful forces would kill to keep hidden. Either way, the prohibition against touching humans was about to be challenged. And the consequences would reshape the entire galaxy. The truth revealed. The corridor was exactly as dark as Dr. Chen had promised. At 0300 hours station time, Level 7 was a ghost town, its usual inhabitants either asleep or working in other sections. The only light came from the emergency strips along the floor, casting everything in a dim red glow that made shadows dance on the walls. Zik7 arrived first, his hearts beating so hard he was certain they could be heard throughout the station. He had spent the past 2 days reviewing his findings, preparing arguments and worrying about whether this meeting was a terrible mistake. But he had come too far to turn back now. Dr. Sarah Chen materialized from the shadows like a ghost. She wore dark clothing instead of her usual bright diplomatic attire, and she carried a small device that she activated the moment she saw him. A sphere of light surrounded them both, shimmering with energy. Privacy field, she explained, her voice now completely clear without the need for translation devices. Nothing gets in or out. We have 55 minutes before the maintenance cycle ends and monitoring resumes. Let us not waste time. You came prepared, Zik-7 observed. I have been preparing for this conversation for 3 years, researcher. Ever since I first started asking questions that no one wanted to answer. The only surprise is that I am having it with you instead of one of the other investigators I knew was looking into the same things. She studied him intently. So what did you find? Zik-7 pulled out his data device and projected the stolen files into the air between them. I found the real reason we are forbidden from touching humans, and it is not what either of our species has been told. As Dr. Chen reviewed the documents, her expression shifted from curiosity to shock to something that looked very much like rage. The regenerative properties research. I heard rumors that something like this existed, but I could never find proof. The council confiscated every trace of it, not every trace. This file survived in the archives probably because someone hid it deliberately. Someone who wanted the truth preserved, even if it could not be spoken aloud. Do you understand what this means? Dr. Chen's voice was tight with emotion. For 15 years, humanity has been kept in isolation, told that we were dangerous to other species because of our microbes. We accepted it. We were grateful just to be part of the community, even if we could never truly be close to anyone. And all this time, the truth was that we were not dangerous at all. We were valuable, too valuable to be allowed to interact freely. There is more, Zik-7 said quietly. He pulled up another set of files. Medical tests performed on humans without consent. Tissue samples collected secretly during routine health screenings. Even experiments using human biological material on sick aliens, without informing either the humans who were the source or the aliens who were being treated. Dr. Chen's hands clenched into fists. They have been using us, experimenting on us, and we never knew. Not the entire council, Zik-7 said. The files suggest that only a small group at the highest levels know the full truth. Most representatives genuinely believe the official story about deadly microbes, but those who do know have been exploiting humanity for over a decade. To cure diseases? To cure everything. Aging, cellular degradation, genetic disorders, even injuries that would normally be fatal. Human cells have properties that are unique in the galaxy. Exposure to human biological material can heal almost any species, if properly administered. The Council has been using this secretly, treating wealthy and powerful individuals while keeping the source hidden. They have built an entire shadow medical system based on human derivatives. Dr. Chen paced within the privacy field, her movements sharp with anger. And humans? Have any humans benefited from this miracle cure? The files do not say. I suspect not. The entire point of keeping the secret is to maintain exclusive control over the resource. If humans knew what they were, if other species knew what humans could offer, the entire power structure of the Council would collapse. Because humanity would have leverage, real leverage for the first time since we joined the community. We would not be the primitive newcomers grateful for whatever scraps of knowledge and technology the elder races deigned to share. We would be equals. Or more than equals, Zik-7 nodded, and many on the Council would do anything to prevent that. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the conspiracy settling over them both. Then Dr. Chen spoke again, her voice carefully controlled. There is something I need to tell you, researcher Zik-7. Something that might change how you see this entire situation. What? 3 days ago, a human child on the station became seriously ill. Kyla Martinez, 5 years old, daughter of one of our engineering staff. She contracted a virus that is harmless to most species but potentially fatal to humans. We have treatments, but they take time. Time that Kyla might not have. Zik-7 felt his scales prickle with apprehension. What happened? An alien child, a young crystalline named Brightness in Morning, was playing near the medical center. She did not understand the protocols, did not know the rules. She saw Kyla through the window of the isolation room, saw a child in pain, and she did what children do. She went to offer comfort. Before anyone could stop her, she had passed through the barrier and took Kyla's hand. The microbes should have killed Brightness in Morning within minutes. Every protocol, every warning, every restriction says that direct contact between humans and crystallines is one of the most dangerous combinations possible. Crystalline biology is silicon-based. Human pathogens should have torn through her system like acid through paper. But she is alive, Zik-7 said, understanding dawning. The touch did not kill her. Not only is she alive, she is thriving. Better than she has ever been. Crystallines naturally develop fractures as they age, tiny cracks in their molecular structure that eventually lead to breakdown and death. Brightness in Morning's parents took her to medical for emergency treatment after the touch, terrified that they had lost their daughter. The doctors discovered that not only was she unharmed, but the microfractures that had been beginning to form in her structure had healed, completely healed, something that is supposed to be impossible. And Kyla, Dr. Chen's smile was complicated, mixing joy with sorrow. Her virus cleared within 6 hours. Complete recovery. The doctors cannot explain it, but I can. The touch worked both ways. Kyla's human biology did something to Brightness in Morning that cured her damage. And Brightness in Morning's crystalline nature did something to Kyla that supercharged her immune response. Zik-7 processed this information, his scientific mind racing through the implications. This changes everything. It means the prohibition is not just unnecessary, it is actively harmful. Humans and aliens could be helping each other, healing each other, if only we were allowed to interact freely. But we are not allowed. And now, that this incident has occurred, the Council knows that someone has broken the prohibition and survived. They will be investigating. They will want to suppress this information just like they suppressed everything else. We have to tell people, both our species, all the species in the community. They deserve to know the truth. Dr. Chen shook her head. If we just release this information, what happens? Chaos. Panic. Both humans and aliens learning that they have been lied to for 15 years. Species with dying loved ones demanding access to human treatment immediately. Humans realizing that they have been kept isolated not for safety but for control. The Council will deny everything, claim the documents are forged, and we will have no way to prove otherwise. Then what do? We need more evidence. Evidence that cannot be denied or dismissed. And we need allies, people in positions of power who will support us when the truth comes out. Otherwise, we will just be two researchers who mysteriously disappear, and the conspiracy will continue. Zik-7 knew she was right, but the thought of waiting, of continuing to pretend ignorance while people suffered from a prohibition that served only to maintain power, made his heart's ache. How long? I do not know. Months, maybe. We need to be smart about this. Patient. We gather evidence, we build our case, and we wait for the right moment. And in the meantime? Dr. Chen's expression hardened with determination. In the meantime, we document everything. Every secret test, every hidden cure, every lie the Council tells. And we prepare for the day when we can expose it all. The privacy field began to flicker, indicating that their time was almost up. They quickly exchanged contact information, encrypted communication protocols, and agreed on dead drops for sharing information where the station's monitoring systems could not track them. As the field collapsed and they prepared to go their separate ways, Dr. Chen caught Zik-7's attention one last time. There is one more thing you should know. The original first contact team, the Vrixians who died when humans touched them, I accessed their medical records. They were already sick, researcher. Terminally ill with a degenerative condition that has no cure. They were not supposed to be on the contact team at all. Someone arranged for them to be there. Someone wanted that first contact to be fatal. The implications hit Zik-7 like a physical blow. It was deliberate. The touching event was orchestrated. I cannot prove it. Not yet. But yes, I believe someone on the Council arranged for sick researchers to make contact with humans, knowing it would likely kill them, because they needed an excuse to implement the prohibition. They already knew about human healing properties. They wanted to make sure no one else discovered it. That is murder. That is politics at the highest level. And it tells us exactly how far the Council will go to protect their secrets. We are not just fighting a conspiracy, Zik-7. We are fighting people who have already killed to maintain their power. They will not hesitate to kill again. They parted in the dark corridor, each returning to their quarters by separate routes. But as Zix-7 lay in his sleeping alcove that night, he thought about two children, one human and one crystalline, who had broken the most sacred prohibition in the galaxy and emerged not destroyed but healed, transformed, made better by the connection. That was what the Galactic Council feared most. Not that humans would harm other species, but that humans would save them, and in doing so, would reveal the lie that had kept an entire species in isolation for 15 years. The truth had been revealed, at least to him and Dr. Chen, but revealing it to the galaxy would require careful planning, absolute proof, and the courage to stand against forces that had already demonstrated their willingness to kill to protect their secrets. Zix-7 touched the data device hidden in his quarters, feeling the weight of everything stored within it. Evidence of conspiracy, of experimentation, of murder, and the key to freedom for humanity and healing for countless species across the galaxy. He had asked a simple question 3 months ago: why are we forbidden from touching humans? Now he knew the answer, and knowing it had made him part of something larger than himself, a quiet revolution that would either transform the galactic community or destroy everyone involved in trying. The alien had asked sadly, "Why are we forbidden from touching humans?" Now, having seen the truth, Zix-7 understood that the prohibition had never been about protection. It had been about control, about power, about keeping humanity dependent and isolated so they could be exploited without their knowledge. But that time was ending. Two children had shown the way forward, breaking the rules through innocent compassion and emerging healed. It was a sign, Zix-7 thought, a glimpse of what the galaxy could be if the barriers came down and species were allowed to truly connect. The question had been answered. The conspiracy had been uncovered. Now came the hard part, deciding what to do with the truth and finding the courage to act on it, knowing the risks. As Zix-7 finally drifted toward sleep, he thought of Brightness in Morning and Kyla Martinez, two children from different worlds who had touched without fear and been made better by it. That, he thought, was worth fighting for, worth risking everything for. The forbidden contact had occurred, and in that single moment of compassion between two children, the future of the galaxy had changed forever. Now it was up to him and Dr. Chen to make sure that change became reality, no matter what it cost them. The truth had been revealed. Now came the revolution. The end author's note. This story explores themes of isolation, conspiracy, and the courage required to challenge unjust systems. The forbidden contact serves as a metaphor for how fear and control can keep people apart, even when connection could heal and transform. The story celebrates human resilience, compassion, and the universal power of touch and connection that transcends species barriers.